Welcome to DAT London. We're super excited to be here. For those who don't know, my name is Matt Milstead. Me and my partner, Dave Koss, we do a weekly podcast called the MoGraph Podcast. You can check it out on any of your podcast catcher of choice. Yeah. I'm very hot right now. Y'all Londoners love it hot. You love it hot inside. I'm from Texas. We're used to heat, but it's air conditioned everywhere. So anyway, let's get this panel started. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another MoCast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Wimbush. What up, what up?
Wimbush is my co-host today on this episode.
We're streaming on the internet, yeah?
We are, yes.
Oh, I didn't realize. All right, my name's Wimbush. What up?
Yeah, he's like, oh man, I gotta step it up now. Gotta put on the salesman.
Yeah, totally forgot.
Yeah. So super excited. I also really want to open it up to the audience. You know, feel free to raise your hand or shout out questions, but because that adds an extra level of fun to this, or chaos, if you will. You know, but we have some amazing local artists and Chris Schmidt. You know, and I'd love for all of us to go down and just introduce yourself, you know, what you do, who you are, where you come from. So yeah, let's start over on that side.
Hey, I'm Andrea. I'm a 3D artist working at Found at the moment. I'm based in London. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Marta Swiatek. I have worked for various VFX software companies, including Maxon and currently Video Copilot. I'm also an actor and mocap performer and one of the people behind the mocap data in Cinema 4D. So yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Ploy Motion, and I'm a 2D and 3D motion designer, and I'm just a freelancer. Yeah.
Just a freelancer. So she says, hi everyone, I'm Haz Dalal. I'm a movie director and a game director. I run a company called Hazimation. I've done 2 movies that have been on Netflix called The Beyond and Origin Unknown, directed a show for Disney called Fast Lane. You can watch it if you've got Disney Plus. And kind of taking a leaf out your book there, Wimbush. And we just finished an animated film completely done in Unreal Engine that comes out next year. And I'm currently the cinematics director on this tiny movie called Dune, the video game with Funcom and Legendary. That's it.
That's how you sell right there.
That is how you sell. How do I follow that? My name's Josh Thorpe. I'm the 3D lead at Territory Studios here in London, just down the road. Been there for a couple of years, and we do a lot of different work traditionally.
Yeah, it's our anniversary. Well done.
Come on, it's been on LinkedIn. Who knows? So yeah, we do a lot of work within the film industry, but more recently within gaming and brand stuff, and we just love telling stories and building worlds. That's us.
Hello there. My name is Vladislav Solovyov, but you might have known me as Solovjov, thanks to the English transliteration. Yeah, this is fun. So I'm like a creative director and artist. I think like 15 years of experience, like heavy user of Cinema 4D. You could see the splash screen I designed for Cinema 4D 2023 with the bubbles exploding. So what I do, I'm freelancing currently, work with different companies, brands, clients, helping them to bring their ideas to life. So this is what I do.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Chris Schmidt from Rocket Lasso, where we do tutorials, plugins, and live streams. I think I'm actually really bad about promoting is like sometimes I do work on actual client projects. So like recently we got to work on the newest John Wick movie, John Wick 4, where we worked on the title sequence. So I TD'd a whole bunch of like the simulation stuff there when the sand is falling and the cloth is tearing and everything. So working on those types of projects is also really fun.
Hey, my name's Andy Needham. I'm a senior motion designer, freelance, and I'm based in London here. Been doing that for nearly 20 years, and I've also been teaching and training people mainly in Cinema 4D for about 10 years as well, over on LinkedIn Learning and various other websites. So.
Hi, I'm Phil Roberts. I'm also known as Raid Zero online on all the socials. I'm a 3D generalist working from London and work with brands like Lego and Adidas and Nike.
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Ellie Wade. I am a trainer at Maxon, so I do things like tutorials, live streams, and quick tips.
And professional football player.
Yeah, she's a professional football player too. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't think it was relevant, sorry.
It's all right. I went to the West Ham Arsenal game, or at least I showed up hoping to get tickets because I waited. I was waiting to hear from her whether she wanted to go to the game with me, but she was on vacation, right? So as soon as I heard back from her that she didn't want to go, I went to the game. They were sold out.
It sounds like you needed me there.
I did need you there. Yeah. I needed you to tell me the rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I found a ticket scalper who would sell me tickets, and they were fake. So, yeah. So I was so excited. You should have seen my energy. I was so excited. And I was like, wow, these are really cheap tickets. And then I go to scan them. I get all the way through security. I go to scan them, and it's like, no, sorry, these are fake. These don't look like West Ham. And I was like, my team. Welcome to London. So yeah, speaking of London, we've kind of done this with every panel that we've had throughout every stop, and I really like to know what is the state of the industry in y'all's specific location. I would love to see to hear what y'all think is maybe things that you're worried about, or things that you're looking forward to, or if things are going really well, or there's a lot of studios, or studios are shutting down. I would love to hear everyone's opinion on what the state of MoGraph is in London. Anyone want to go first?
I'll start with this.
There you go.
So at Territory Studio, we have historically done a lot of film work, which obviously right now is not great time to be doing film work. For about 6 months now, it's been pretty dry. However, I think a lot of other industries are kind of picking up in its place, particularly gaming and kind of experiential stuff. So I think it's all about kind of what skill sets you've got and how you can adapt to the current situation. Because film's not really taking off at the moment, but you can use your skills in so many different ways. So I think that's kind of where we're at as a studio, is seeing where we can use those skills in other places. And I think it's still a very exciting time to be doing motion graphics.
Do the salespeople have to pivot, especially with, now are there still productions, sorry, I know there's not productions going on there, but I've heard there are still productions going on here, is that correct?
Yeah, I can just echo what Josh is saying. I mean, that the strike didn't really help in the US. We had the writer's strike, then we had the actor's strike, and I'm hearing there's potential MoCA, actor strikes as well in video games.
The interactive entertainment contract strike's been authorized. So.
Right, there you go. Right.
The strike's been authorized.
There you go. And all for good reason as well, because, actors have always been treated unfair, especially things like AI and stuff like that. So it's a good reason, but obviously it's had a really bad knock-on effect, as you've mentioned, Josh. So for us at Animation, we during pandemic, even before the strikes, we had to pivot from live action to animation. And how does one go from live action to animation? Because also we all know animation takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of people. Luckily, this doesn't sound like I'm plugging here, but luckily things like Unreal Engine, things like real-time technology enabled us to really quickly put together a trailer or sizzle trailer and really start pitching. Even like all our motion graphic artists and our Cinema 4D artists, our ZBrush artists, they still had a job because yes, they're not doing high resolution textures for visual effects on the movies or the live action stuff we were doing, but they're able to transition their skill. And like you said, Josh, you really can migrate into different industries. And most recently we've pivoted towards video games. So we're making a video game because we're in Unreal, so we may as well, right? But at the same time, we also pivoted to free to play with Fortnite, as you may have seen my good friend Winbush playing the trailer. And this is all using the same people. that have been at the company for years. So, I always tell people, like, regardless of what the industry is going at the moment, from a business point of view, as an artist, always keep your eye out on the other sectors, because your work and skill set is still relevant.
Yeah, and I've actually found, speaking of Unreal, going on LinkedIn, I see a bunch of jobs for Unreal artists, and I've always said that learning as much as you can in each individual thing, you just expand upon your knowledge and being able to pick those individual jobs up. I went through Winbush's course on mograph.com, and because of that, I was able to actually pick up a job with Cadillac earlier this year. And when I interviewed for the job, it was mostly a, oh yeah, I don't know Unreal at all. And they're like, oh, don't worry, we won't use Unreal. The entire thing was in Unreal. So I had to learn it really quickly. And luckily, having gone through his course, I was able to pick it up really quick.
I don't remember seeing any residuals off that.
Oh, I know you get the residuals. Oh, off the project I work on? No. I was going to say, we send you a check every month.
Well, speaking of strikes, motion graphics artists, how do we go on strike? I still got a bone to pick with Deadliest Catch, so.
I agree. I've been saying for a really long time that, there needs to be, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but there needs to be a MoGraph union. Especially in the, I heard some groans out there, but that's all right,
Yeah. I don't know about union. I just want to get paid off of the stuff that airs, Like, I worked on several seasons of The Deadliest Catch and worked with Bon Jovi, and he just says Live and Die or something like that. He gets paid every time that airs, and I get nothing. So it's like my graphics are on top of Bon Jovi's lyrics. And he gets paid, and I was like, can I get some points? And they kind of just laughed at me, so.
But I think that's why the strikes exist, right? And I think we're going to see more strikes. I know this sounds like very rebellious here, but like, it's worked for the writers, right? They've managed to get what they want. Yes, it's been disruptive, but it has. And visual effects, I think one of the Marvel shows, I think Loki season 2 kind of triggered the union for visual effects. Now, this has been coming for a long time, but it needed a show like that to really trigger it off.
But that's only going through Marvel, though, right?
It is at the moment.
All VFX artists.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, but hopefully that will inspire to grow bigger. And I think anyone that's content creation, your Deadliest Catch example is a good example. Like, you put in a lot of work that is generating revenue, yet the legacy way of generating revenue, which is the talent, they call it, which is the actors, the music composers, and so on, they get residuals and so on. It's a big problem. But I think collectively as artists, as we start voicing this stuff out, studios will have to do something about it.
I think the MoGraph artists, perhaps, and this is just a thought that popped in my head, so I could be totally wrong. With some of these, the actors, or especially these VFX artists, they're pretty high in there, and I'm curious if maybe there isn't the same type of movement with, MoGraph artists or VFX people, because we just don't have that person to prop us up. Like, if we had Andrew Kramer up here going like, hey, come on, let's unionize, maybe we could all get behind him. I don't know.
I'll say let's get Winbush's money.
Marty, you can tell him that too.
Go ahead, Marty. No, Matt called you out.
No, I did. I told her she could tell Andrew Kramer I said that.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll let him know. I'll call him right now.
And actually, I was going to say, even if it's just, if you kind of remove the idea of being unionized, and I think that there's a lot of movement that I'm seeing from, even if you're just looking at recruiters or people that are looking to hire, a lot of the rates that they're putting out there seem to be either the same as like 5, maybe even 10 years ago or something, or they're actually trying to drop the rates. And the idea for us, even if we don't unionize, is to stay strong. And I know that it's tough out there. And like, even for me, it's been like my weakest year since I've gone freelance, which has been last 5 years. But you cannot start getting to this point where it's like a feeding ground and you're happy to take the lowest rate just to get the work. because if you keep doing that, it's just going to get lower and lower and lower, and we all have to stay strong, know your worth, and don't take less than that. Like, make sure that you have an absolute bottom, and there is a reason for that. And you know, there are different reasons, everyone's in different situations, but just work out what your bottom is and just don't be tempted to go lower than that, because we just need to stay strong, and together as a community we will end up being paid what we are worth, and our time is worth so much. So just
amen. Yeah. I mean, there is equity, right? There's equity rates as well. So like what you're saying is 100% true. Like 100% agree with that. But I find with like motion graphics artists, there isn't like an equity support. Like, so whenever we hire actors, there is a base minimum. Like, you can't pay them no less than $250. That's the minimum, right? And visual effects now, you know, you have things like BEC2, which is the kind of like the national body for visual effects, animation, CG, and so on. I'm not sure if motion graphics cover it. No, see that there you go. But things are starting to change when there is like a equity set rate. So as a producer, wearing my producer's hat, whenever I'm budgeting for a show, I have to look at something to reference, and equity is usually something I have to do. Also, like, if someone finds out that I'm paying someone less equity, even if it's a junior, you know, it's not a good rep for a company. So I think definitely, you know, places like equity and BEC2 needs to cover all types of creation, whether it's mocap, whether it's 3D, whatever it is that's going into a movie or a game, it needs to be accountable, and that takes time, I think.
I just want to say, like, on the game side of things, actually, equity is not as looked at as much. Like, it doesn't have as much power. So really, there's very much the same thing as a performer in games. I've worked, you know, on Destiny 2. I worked on even closer. Okay, yeah. Even closer. Fine. I'm right here. Is this close enough?
There you go.
Yeah.
Everyone can do that, please.
No, so I worked on, you know, a lot of different games, including Horizon Forbidden West, Destiny 2, all this kind of stuff as a mocap performer, as a voice actor, all these kinds of things. And it's a constant struggle, because everybody, well, you know, actors really want to get into these projects. I'm one of those people that, you know, really wanted to get into these projects, and they're willing to take, you know, as low as $150 a day to do this. And it's incredibly physically demanding work. And, you know, there's sort of this lack of interest still from a lot of these establishments in the UK to actually go into the game space. And I think just generally, in my opinion, in the UK, just a lot of this infrastructure is lagging behind, especially over the last 5 to 10 years, of how fast things have changed, how much things have changed for everybody. I think they're still really, really far behind. There's a lot of work to do to make sure everybody gets paid fairly.
I'm loving this discussion.
I think that the problem with the motion design, why we should have such discussions, because I think motion design as an industry is very underestimated on corporate level. Mm-hmm. So like you have like the core members of the company that actually make the revenue, and you have motion designers who are like expendable material. So you can get anyone like on Upwork. And speaking of the rates, they're also low because your contribution to the company, what you make. So the general idea is that when you get a designer on a project, he just got hired by an art director. An art director is under creative director. Creative director is under the executive director, and then you have managers. Then you have producers. You have a bunch of people, and then the food chain design is somewhere at the bottom. Even though we create content that helps the company to actually make the revenue, because we create the marketing campaigns, we help come up with the posters, something that would be visible on Instagram, Facebook, on all the type of social media, and that would be attracting the new customers. And I think the general problem for designers, and I even speaking of myself, because I remember how hard it was just to speak out, to voice and tell about your experience, about your inputs, that listen, I'm making the difference. I help these projects to get delivered. So whatever I do would bring you customers, clients, and these customers will bring you money. It will bring you more shares, more investors. So I would like to have a slice of pie. And the problem is that for designers, it's very hard to negotiate. I think the core feature of our job in general is just to negotiate, stand your ground, like we just discussed. To just come to creative director and say, like, it's not just inflation, the crisis, energy crisis, a lot of difficult problems. It is just about standing your ground, knowing your worth, and unfortunately, not too many people know their worth. There was a very cool, I think, feed on Twitter. Mulgrave paid me. I think you remember in 2020 when all the designers just came on board and started tweeting about their raise. That was a bit confusing because you could see so many talented artists and they were like, I'm just making this little money. And people saying like, you have to raise your rate immediately. And I won't, tell any names, of course, but you know these people. Because you could see their splash screens, you could see them on Instagram, on like different podcasts, talented people, amazing people, but they're underpaid. And there are other people who can voice like their needs to come to creative director, be well spoken, and they somehow get a larger raise. They get a best position in at the company only because they can, communicate a bit better their needs and stand out. Because no matter how great you are and how talented you are, if you don't tell the world and to people who you work with or for, they will never know. Because our job is so unnoticed by like society, professional society. Art society looks at our work like, well, what's that? It's like, it's not like a painting I can sell on an auction. It's just a 3D thing. Well, how can I utilize it? How can I make revenue with that? And it also speaks volumes. Like when we talk to our families, how do we describe our work? Like, son, how do you make money? How do you actually pay your bills? Like, mom,
you ever seen Pixar?
Yeah, Pixar. What was that? Like, you draw cartoons, but for like companies. Right. Yeah, so it's more like corporate, but it's still very hard to explain. It's not like a surgeon, doctor, stockbroker, and other like important people who drive Ferraris probably. But I also would like to have a Ferrari, right? So that's why we need to stand our ground. So this is what I think.
I think if you're particularly like when you're a freelancer and you're going to work for a new client, you still got that level of trust to establish. And one of those things you can do, I guess, or what they may request is like, can you do this for a lower rate or whatever? And that's not, that's a bit of give and take and up to you to decide on. And I think you should say, okay, I'll give you a discount. I'm never going to, and then we'll put this in on the invoices. I've actually been, generous and discounted that. And so that they know that you've got a good deal. And I think it's up to you as using your discretion whether you're going to take that job. It could be, if it's an extensive period of time or whatever. Like recently I did it and I said, yeah, I'll take it because it was a new company and it was actually an interesting project. It ticked a few boxes for me. And now, there's a relationship there and we can move forward from that. I think as long as you are upfront with the ground rules of what you expect from them, maybe later down the line, it's just communication.
One of the things that we talk about when that Andy was talking about with the discounting, making sure to put it on the invoice, because by seeing that discount, they'll know that that particular project was discounted, that your normal rate is something a bit higher than that, and for this one time only, you're taking a discounted rate. If you just throw an invoice and you put that rate without the discount, or you put whatever the agreed upon rate is without any sort of discount, they're gonna assume that's your rate from now on. It's a mindset thing.
Yeah. Because that goes to the accounts or whatever, and then the producer sees that and they go, oh great, we got that for that rate.
Yeah,
great. So.
All right, talk to me about the freelance world. I'd like to know the freelance world. Phil, let's ask you, because I know you got let go from your job and had to jump into the freelance world.
Yes, I was creative director at a company called Taylor James. They're animation and stills studio. That's kind of my background in stills. I made the move doing 3D animation, and yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. I was made redundant from my job because we did have a London office, and it was merged into a big corporate company called Tag. That kind of got liquidated like over the course of 2 years, where members of staff were made redundant from the London office. We were heavily going into New York, like weighing into American work. A lot of car manufacturers and things like that. So the automotive team, which is what I worked on, was the majority of the work, and that started drying up, to be honest. These companies where we were going on shoots in LA for 2.5 weeks and it was no expense spared, all of a sudden all of those budgets were cut because of COVID. Going freelance was it was just a case of getting in contact with people that I've worked with over the years, and built relationships whilst I was working at that company. And it's, to be honest, I've made some good contacts, and like Andy said, like taking on jobs where take a chance on me, like I'll give you a slightly discounted rate, and getting that foot in the door, I think it's helped me out, definitely doing that sort of thing.
I see some faces down there.
I was actually going to ask, I'm not a freelancer myself and I haven't been, but I was going to ask if it helps to have open communication about salary, money, and all of this within freelance. What do you think?
Open communication as far as freelance and everything?
As day rates, for example.
There is a very cool website called School of Motion. They have a very nice article about rates. I've already shared it a couple of times. And people were shocked that you actually can negotiate it. And I also found myself a couple of years ago that you can raise your rates, and people were like, yeah, it's right. And then you think, oh, I could ask 3 times more. Like, why not? Yeah.
I think
it's all about like the confidence.
Within, like, so freelancer to freelancer being like, yeah, I'm on this, or being open about that kind of thing. Because I feel like if I were one day to get into freelance, I would have maybe no idea on.
Are you talking about freelancers like actually discussing it with each other?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know about how it is here in the U.S. Like, you have corporations who they say they'll make you sign a contract that says you're not allowed to talk about what you get paid, but is completely against the law. You are 100% allowed, and if they fire you for that, you can sue them for it. But yeah, okay, so I don't know about y'all. I'll go ahead and say it. Right now, I'm $850 a day, but that's $850 US, and that may be low, but I have been, from listening to this panel, I've been on $850 for a while. I haven't raised my rates in a while. So I don't know about y'all. If y'all want to say your rates, you're more than welcome.
That's why I would say, like, the UK, I feel like it's a lot lower than that. If you could do the conversion rate, the rates that the bar is very low.
Yeah.
So the kind of invitation to take on jobs that are from the US, it's a lot more inviting, and you can play that game where the next job I'll just raise my rates a little bit more until someone just says no.
Yeah.
And you can play that game like quite well.
So is there a lot of influx of like trying to get work from the US? Because when we were in Canada, one thing that Victor had said was try as hard as you can in Canada to live in Canada and get work from the US, because they pay better than what Canadian studios
100%,
do.
like getting $850 a day, like I don't know what the conversion rate is today, but
I'll figure it out. Hold on. Keep talking.
It's exactly. And it's almost double what a motion designer would get in the UK.
Well, y'all got the free healthcare.
kind of free. Yeah, but we pay national insurance as well, so we do pay for it.
I guarantee you're not paying as much as I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was fun.
I had a quick question though, because you said the motion picture industry kind of flatlined out here. So what about episodic work, like TV shows or commercials? Has that picked up? Because like I've been doing a lot of that type of work recently, at least stateside.
Is this to do with the strikes? You asking?
Just in general, because you guys said like the motion picture, like it flatlined, like there's no work for it happening right now.
That was because, a lot of it is because of the strikes, but that's the strikes of the actors, right?
Yeah.
So that would definitely follow through for the series as well. There's been a few series that have been put on hold.
Well, on the series side, at least for me, like if you're working in reality TV, then that's a caveat
that's different. Yeah, exactly.
So, like, are you guys
scripted and non-scripted, right?
Right. So I was just asking, like, have you been flipping like what you usually work on? Like, say you work in motion picture, have you gone over to episodic or even like commercial work or just other industries in general, try to compensate for that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think a lot of kind of showrunners like Netflix and Prime have shifted, which has obviously had a shift on our side as well. So they're doing a lot more sports related things, documentary related things. Right. So yeah, that has shifted over, but I think for like the raw kind of visual effects side of stuff, it's just never as much and it's never as involved. Right. Budgets are normally a lot less. So yeah, there has been a shift, but it's not a replacement for the film. Yeah.
Luckily, in motion design, it can be, like we discussed before, it's an industry very fluid. If you're a motion designer, it can be applied anywhere, in game industry, in film industry, in art industry, in museums, because motion design is literally now everywhere. I had a podcast yesterday and we discussed the implementation and how you can utilize your skills in many different ways. And I was surprised to learn about how great it can be used in theaters. So now you can have like the environments, but it can be also complemented by the computer graphics, by animation, by editing. You go to museums, there might be an exhibition about the history, about like animals. You can have an animation that would explain better. It would also look like a piece of art. And luckily, the advertising never stops, even though we had the strike that was pretty hurtful for the film industry. I had so many peers in my industry who lost their job, especially immigrants. Someone who went to, for example, to Singapore, they got redundant because ILM decided to close the Lucasfilms in Singapore. It was pretty painful, and you need to somehow, be flexible and decide where you want to go. Like, is it India? Is it Australia or New Zealand? So you need to make decisions very quickly. For freelancers, if you have this freedom, if you're a freelancer, I was quite surprised to learn that people are very reluctant to go freelance, even though they might think that it would benefit them and their families. People are used to work at the mill. Some of them have worked in the company for many years. When they left the company, they immediately found amazing projects. And I spoke with some other colleagues I used to work before. They were like, "Oh, why haven't you done it earlier?" Yeah. Like, we can have a race on my calendar is like booked in advance. I was so happy to see these people finding their way in freelance. Yes, you need to negotiate, you need to speak with clients, you need to work on your PR, social media, but it brings so many benefits. But it, like I say, it's not for everyone. Like, if everyone would be ready to go freelance, our studios would be empty. Someone just wants and really likes to have stability in their life, and I don't judge these people, but I do sometimes insist at least to try. If you don't like it, you can always find a job. You can find even a better salary, because within the studio it's very hard to get a raise. You need to contribute yourself to show the company that you're loyal, work there for a couple of years, and then to expect someone to leave the company to get on their role, and might be like 5-6 years. If you go to another studio, you can get a raise immediately. This is what people in IT industry do. They just hop from one job to another. They get their stocks, their shares, 3 years, and they go to Facebook, Meta, Google, and they get a raise. But in our industry, it's a bit more difficult because it's a bit undervalued. But freelance is good.
I was going to say, I think one of the benefits as well from working at studio, at least for me, has been to work
Closer to the mic.
To work very closely with other designers or art directors. You get to learn a lot from that pipeline of work as well. So yeah, at least in my opinion, that's been a really good experience at Found.
I agree with that. And there was a discussion that I had with someone the other day about, so we've kind of moved into this like Zoom world, you know, where we're working at a studio, you know, but maybe we're working from home with other people. And it doesn't have that same flair as working at a studio with other people and like kind of looking over their shoulder and being like, how'd you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and you've got like, I don't know, say 4 projects ongoing at the same time. You get to go to someone, see what's happening in that project, and they're all like very different, but obviously all in 3D, so you can share, also using lots of different tools. Each one's like specialized in one thing, so you can kind of learn a bit from everyone, which is cool.
Yeah, we all went through that. Obviously, the pandemic and kind of learning to work from home, like whatever space you're in, and it was quite strange having a lot of junior designers in a studio where they're learning from, you know, the person sat next to them, and then all of a sudden we're all at home, we're all doing Zoom calls, and it's all that everyday kind of learning and problem solving and things like that. They're just getting given jobs, and it's like, say like they're a modeler or something like that, and that's your job, and then they kind of go away and just feel a bit isolated in that, and they're not exposed to other departments, you know, like marketing or the web team, or, you know, how things are used as an end product. And I definitely lost one of my team to that, because she just felt that she just wasn't progressing, like at the start of her career. Like, it's fine for people like myself, where I've already got an established career, and, you know, I'm running a team, but someone who's at the very start of their career, they're just losing all of that kind of education, basically.
Yeah, I always tell people all the time, especially new people coming in the industry, like I got my bachelor's degree at university, and I say my 6 months being an intern, I learned a lot more in those 6 months than I did at university.
1000%. Yeah.
There's nothing more than being around other artists and learning the workflows and just kind of getting thrown into the fire. So I don't want to say university was a waste for me, but I always tell people.
I will. All right, well, go ahead.
I mean, I try to promote school, but, you know, like
I went to the school of Andrew Kramer.
Same.
But I always say, if you're just starting off, if you get like a junior position or an internship, especially in the office, I think that's the most valuable thing in the world. Like, I don't think I'd be here today without being in the artist bullpen. And even though I creeped everybody out, like I'm over everybody's shoulder, like, what are you doing over there? What are you doing there? Like,
oh, here comes Windbush again.
It creeped people
What up,
out,
what up? What are you doing?
But I mean, it's like that curiosity and that excitement. I think people, after a while, they learn like, okay, he's really genuine and wants to learn. So people became open, and artists just started sharing their knowledge with you. And I think I probably accelerated like tenfold just by that experience there.
A big thing as well is meetups. Like, if this is y'all's first meetup, you keep on saying, what, we got 1 minute? No. Yes. Hold on. Hold that thought. Let me finish mine. One thing very important is meetups. For those who this is their first meetup, y'all have started something awesome. Keep this going. Keep the momentum. Meet people. You know, you never know what jobs you're going to get through the people that you meet, and they become your friends. Through all these meetups and all the events and the NABs and the half-reses, like, I have met all of my friends. No one lives within like 10 miles of me or whatever. They all live at least 500 or more miles from me, and those are all my closest friends. Karan, what were you gonna ask?
Hi guys, I'm Karan. I manage events, so
This is all him. Give him a round of applause. Yeah. Unless it's bad, then it was all me. So if you're a freelancer, does it make you more outspoken in comparison to like a full-time employee? I think for me, I think there's definitely a certain personality type that is much more engaged in, you know, the freelance life, the going out and the being schmoozy and, you know, talking to people and like kind of selling yourself, you know, versus there are people who they just want to collect a paycheck. They're comfortable with their life. And there's nothing wrong with either of those things. But especially with me, my brain works in a way where I like to do a lot of things. You know, I like being booked like 2 or 3 projects all at once because it keeps my ADD like in check, you know? But I know a bunch of people. I work really closely sometimes with the guys over at Already Been Chewed, and there's a bunch of people who just love working there. You know, there's a studio that you just love to work for, and there's nothing wrong with that. To each their own.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that as well. One thing we haven't really touched on when it comes to freelancing, I found that very early in my career. I was working full-time at a place called NPC as a compositor back in the day. And, you know, I was just comfortable, like working one show to another show and so on. But when I went freelance, I realized I wasn't just a freelance artist. I was also a business guy. You start wearing a business hat. You start talking about negotiations. You start sourcing work. You start doing a lot of research, like going onto LinkedIn. And that eventually became my training as to where I am today, where I am running a studio. And I have to say, when you're a freelancer, you essentially are running a company. You are that company. You are that brand. So the more social media posts you put out, even if you do like a sketch or a test 3D sequence or anything, and you put it out on Twitter, and you're building a brand, all of a sudden, not only am I now a creator, I am now a business development person, I'm now a PR person, I'm now a marketing person. You are essentially a mini company, you. And then eventually over the years, as you grow as an artist, as whether you're a director, whether you're a mocap, creative director, so whatever it is you are, you grow. And then the projects that you get given are much bigger than you can only handle yourself. So you start bringing on other people, other collectors, other friends. All of a sudden, over the years, you got 4, 5, 6 people. You have a studio, and all of that came from because you took the step to become a freelancer.
I also think it's just also about the stage in your life. Like we just discussed, you might be junior intern. You can become a studio on your own because you're no one. So you just need to at least gain experience in the studio in the company just to understand how the kitchen works, and you can be behind the curtain and understand the pipeline of the things. And whenever you feel ready to go freelancing, you just a matter of making this leap and going to do your thing on your own. But it's also very hard, like I described earlier. For people, it's if you work in a company, let's say for a very long time, it becomes your lifestyle. People also don't work on their portfolio. Like when you work at a company or you work for huge IT brands, you don't have portfolio. Yeah, everything is under NDA. You can't, if you make like corporate videos for Google, for example, you're not allowed to go online and post it, like and say like, oh, I've just made an amazing like stop motion animation for Google. Nobody knows about that. Because why? Because they pay the money and you have like the benefits and everything. So there are things you sacrifice, and there are people like things you appreciate more. Like if a person needs freedom, and he or she or they enjoy freedom more, I think it's like freelancing is a perfect option. People who like the stability, they can find themselves working at a company and helping the brands to build something. There are people who think that, oh, I would like to be that cogwheel in a huge mechanism. I would like to make the difference and have my sole role at the company, and they would be, just building their career and growing the ladder and becoming better in the company, and they would have the proper career of 15 years. They might become a vice president. For some people, that might be the best aim to become a vice president, to get a house for 1 million and just, retire when they turn 50. But there are people who would like to experiment with their career, to risk something. It's different mentalities, so I do agree. It's just a bit different, and it just depends. But I like to see how people shift their career when they go freelancing, because it's always interesting to see the opinion of a friend of yours and how the mentality changes. It's great.
I think, what to your question though, Karan, was about whether it makes you more outspoken, and I think that just comes down to your personality and what you want to get out of your job. Because I've worked with plenty of freelancers who just show up, do the job, and then leave. But then I've worked with some incredible full-timers who go above and beyond their actual job role, and they love training other members of the team. They like doing kind of sessions within work to kind of learn new skill sets and things like that. So I think it just totally depends. And you kind of mentioned this as well, Matt. It's like, it depends what you want to get out of it and your personality, for sure.
Can I ask a...
Yes, sir.
Okay.
See, you need to be on the panel. We'll make sure you're on the panel on the next one.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah. We're artists. That's why.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
artists.
A lot of us are just like
nature.
big introverts. That's why it's really hard to reach out to other artists. That's why I found the Slack that we run. It's got 1,200 people in it, and when you don't see another person's face and they're just a list on a chat thing, it makes it a whole lot easier to communicate. There's less pressure there.
Absolutely. But going off of the basis of freelance, no, you don't mind me calling you out, Marta, but because I feel like you're the only one up here that has actual representation, right? Like, you work with agencies and they help you find work. Would you be able to speak more on that? Because as motion graphics artists, we usually represent ourselves. So how is that on the other side where you have somebody find a work for you?
I think it used to be a lot more like you need an agent to have any contacts, and just nowadays, especially, the last, let's say 10, 15 years, let's say, because social media and all that kind of stuff has changed the game entirely, that's no longer the case. Yeah. That was my sort of what was then called out as a very different approach. For me, it just felt natural because I do have a little bit more of a business background and things like that. So I did use some of that training to reach out to people, and they were surprised because nobody ever contacts them directly about anything. Everybody was expecting to hear from an agent. Sometimes it was even like, oh no, you can't. It has to be somebody like that. Somebody has to talk for 10%. You. Yeah, exactly. No, 20. Yeah. No, so for me, that just felt a bit silly. Unless an agent is able to really connect me to things that I can't reach out to myself easily, then they have no business being in sort of my work pipeline. There's no point. Unless you're adding that value, then you're not getting that 10%, because that really does make a big dent in your bottom line. And unless that person is able to get you those bigger gigs, top tier gigs, it's unlikely that you're going to get those contact details or anything like that. There's still a song and dance to that contact. But for most of my work and most of my success, my biggest projects that I've ever worked on, I got that myself through showing up to places like this.
And do you still have to pay a percentage on that?
If you
find them yourself.
So also, yes, there's the other thing. If you have representation, it used to be you have to be exclusive with somebody, and no matter what you get, they still take a percentage. And I wasn't having any of that, so I only signed with agents, multiple agents, non-exclusively, and they only get a percentage for what they get me. If something comes directly to me, I can choose to hand it over to them, because it might be, I have too many things going on. I want you to handle the contracts, whatever else. But no, we have a lot more power to say, no, I want the terms of this business relationship to be like this. And they can say no, and there's a million other agents out there. That's the other thing. You don't have to, they'll make you feel like that's your one shot. And it's never the case. It's never the case. You have to dictate the terms of how you want to work with this person and see what value they bring to the bigger picture before you sign with them. But you do not need an agent to succeed.
Yeah, can I just follow on that one?
Go for
it. So Martha, you're speaking from performance?
Yeah, largely performance, but there's also other work. Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. So I remember when I did my first short film, Project Kronos, back in 2013. It went kind of viral. I got signed to some big agents like CAA and all those guys, and I'm like, wow, I've made it. I don't have to be a VFX artist. Hell no. And echoing what you said, Marta, that mentality, you're like, okay, I'll sit back now, I'll just wait for the phone call, right? Or the email, and they'll get me to work. No, it does. I very quickly realized there's a difference. Like the agents, there's two things. The agents can only follow up based on your recent success. And let's face it, you do a short film, it lives out for like 3, 4, 5 months, and then traction dies down. And then it's what's your next thing? And if you're not someone that's quite prolific, you're like, well, no, I just did this amazing award-winning short. I'm just going to wait to get more jobs. You're going to come in for a big disappointment. So what I'm trying to say is like the agents will never get you work. They'll open the door for you. Maybe they'll get you some general meetings. And when I say general, I mean general, nothing specific. But I'm speaking from a director's point of view. So for me as a director, or as a writer as well, like I literally was just creating pitch decks every night. Pitch deck after pitch deck, pitching on projects, not getting the gig. And you spend time, this stuff takes up your time. And if you're a freelancer, you're kind of sacrificing a little bit to do that because you're like, oh, I want to get this big movie. And then you very quickly realize that there are 100 directors that are pitching for that movie, right? So then you start becoming a bit more selective. Like you then start changing the way you pitch and you start talking about, I'm pitching because I can resonate with this character. I'm pitching because my last movie reflected that theme. But then there are managers, right? So when you go into like the world of Hollywood, even in the UK, you have managers and agents. And there's a big difference between the two. Agents are very transactional. It's like, we're going to put you up for this job. It's going to be X amount of money. You're going to get X amount of residuals if you're in the US or royalties in the UK. And that's really the conversation you're having, right? A manager is a much more different kind of relationship. They're a bit non-transactional. I mean, they're transactional in terms of trying to get you a deal, obviously, but they're more about growing your career. So I would say, like, if you're a director, writer, creative director who wants to step into creating your own content, instead of trying to chase for a manager, I would say, chase for an agent, go for a manager, because that manager's there throughout the whole period of your life in terms of your career life. Question is, how do you find those managers? How do you find
just about to ask
that. I get asked that all the time. So this is really simple. Just sign up to IMDb Pro, right? Find your favorite director, like Neil Blomkamp or whoever. Just don't look for Steven Spielberg. You're not going to get his agent or manager, even if you try. But a lot of the managers and agents have their email addresses on there. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is, the way, I don't know how it works for you, Marta, but for directors, you can't just go and knock on a agent's door or a manager's door and say, hey, I'm a director. I can be this amazing next Spielberg or next Scorsese if you give me a chance. It's just not going to reply. So I would say if you've got stuff that's just recently come out, even if you're a freelancer who's worked on a big movie, but you're also doing your shorts, I would say start off with saying, hey, I'm the former animation director or former creative director who's worked on this movie. Start that as your header, and then at the bottom say, hey, but I'm also transitioning to filmmaking. I'd love to talk to you. Because unfortunately, it really is about the hook bait, if you know what I mean. They're going to look for the thing that you've worked on. So it's very hard. The competition, as you know, it's very hard out there. So you've got to make yourself stand out. But no one's going to get you the work. You're getting yourself the work. The agent will just facilitate that transaction. The manager will open the doors for you to get the meetings. But it's up to you to take that next step.
Yeah, can I, real quick, I was gonna say, the only reason I brought it up was because, at least for me, I noticed on LinkedIn, a lot more people have been hitting me up to represent me as a motion graphics artist, which it hasn't been a thing for a while. Like when I first started in the early 2000s, if you had an agent, then you thought you were like the top dog because they would get you jobs for like Coke and Pepsi and Lexus and stuff. But that kind of faded out for a little bit, but it's starting to make it come back again, which I thought was interesting for at least us as motion graphics artists.
The agents are hurting for work. They got to reach out to people.
I just want to add one more thing on the manager's side of things, at least in Europe. And this is not exclusive to acting. This is, not just me, like, based on friends in the industry as well. How to meet them is you have to be a little bit of a stalker, a little bit. You have to find out because
easy.
They will go, easy. But it is about the best way to actually get in is to meet them in person, right? Most managers will be in or around the major film festivals in Europe. They will usually be on the ground. And so if you lay the groundwork of like emailing them and having your portfolio ready and having that hook ready, so you have to be prepared with all the information to be as easily digestible as possible in like the shortest possible amount of time. Nothing exceedingly lengthy. They don't have the time. But if you have that ready and then just ask to meet them there, like the Berlinale is happening in February, for example. And when you say, hey, I'm going to be in the same town, I'd love to meet you, 15 minutes, coffee, that can be the thing that gets you signed if that's what you want to do. But it's also, I would say, a manager is not something, if you're just starting out, you're not ready. Like, it's something for when you've already sort of established what it is you want to do. And then they'll help you grow that.
It's also a good way to, get a potential freelance job is reach out to someone, say, hey, I'm going to be in the area. I'd love to tour your studio. Could I buy you a coffee or something like that? Yeah.
Actually, our friend Sarah, that's how she started working with Marvel. Because she came out to LA, because she's from St. Louis. She came out to LA, toured a couple of studios. She's working on Thor. Yeah. Just doing that,
So I want to pivot from the manager talk and stuff. Everyone needs to up their game quite a bit in order to get to that manager level, and you can't do that without amazing training. We've got like half the people on this panel right here do tutorials or do training or stuff like that. I would love to know, when you're creating a tutorial or a training or anything like that, how do you make sure it doesn't go over the head of some of like the newbies? Ellie, take it.
So for me, because I still class myself as quite like a new trainer / artist, I try and put myself in their shoes. So I kind of think like, I only learned Redshift 2 years ago, so I completely understand and feel like I'm in your shoes. And so I always think like, what do I wish I got told when I was first trying to learn these kind of like crazy tools, and just to understand that people are beginners, and even though what is simple now potentially to all of us as experienced users isn't to anyone who especially doesn't have like a design background. And so I think that's kind of like where I come from, because I don't have a design background. I always try and explain things in like a really user-friendly way. I'm done.
I had somebody recently calculate that I have over 700 hours of Cinema 4D tutorials, like on YouTube via Rocket Lasso and presentations for Maxon and at Grayscale Gorilla. So, yeah, like an incredible amount of content. But I'm constantly assuming I'm going over people's heads. I talk incredibly quickly because I've got so much information to share. But the one thing I always try and do, no matter what I'm talking about, is I almost always start everything from scratch. Like every video, I'm not like, oh, here's this pre-built thing, and now let's continue. It's like, no, we're starting from a cube, and let's work all the way through it. So I always hope that is going to keep everybody coming along, because I don't know, at this point, I've kind of priced myself out of all of the introduction stuff, and I always feel like I should get back into like more medium level and low level. But even every Rocket Lasso tutorial, if you look at it, is all like high-end material. Like, okay, let's get crazy right away. We're going straight into like deep simulation and using fields and vertex maps in crazy ways.
I've struggled with that in the past, where you continue doing tutorials, and it's like with me early on in the tutorial stage, it was like, oh, I learned something new. I want to show everyone else, and then it's like you get to a point in your career where you're like, oh, I've learned a lot. I don't know if I have any more to teach. You know,
Well, I'm
how
always
do you
trying
keep it fresh?
I'm always trying to one up myself, which is where I said I'm pricing myself out. Where it's like, oh, I do the advanced tutorials. That's my niche, and I just keep on pushing that further and further to the point where it's like, oh my god, nobody can follow this tutorial anymore. like I rewatched my own video like a year later. I'm like, what was I talking about? This is crazy. But that's where, like for me at least, the live streams are really handy because now I'm just getting questions literally live from people in the chat room. And it's like, okay, we're going to do this from scratch and figure it out in front of you. You can see the entire process. And we can get advanced, but you'll see like the process of figuring that out, like how all the gears turn to actually get to a final product.
Do you ever worry, Chris, let me ask you this. Do you ever worry that, because this happens to me a lot, I feel like I rely, like with the introduction of like fields and stuff like that, I sometimes fear that I am getting left behind or I'm using techniques that are old, you know, and outdated.
Try to test it.
Yeah, right? Like the past few times that I've like presented for Maxon or something, I always feel like it's just like, oh, this is just classic MoGraph stuff. You know, I always worry that it's just too simple.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I guess it's the complete opposite problem. Like I'm constantly like, I'm only doing fields all the time. I'm only doing like the crazy advanced simulation stuff and, you know, building capsule rigs or espresso rigs and whatnot. So I have the problem where I start assuming other people are on the same page. And it goes to like, even in the audience, like how many people here feel like really comfortable using fields inside of cinema? Like, go ahead. I don't know, what, maybe a quarter of the people? And I just make the assumption to everybody. It's like, well, I don't even need to talk about fields because everybody knows everything about them. And it's like, oh, wait, no. And actually, there's something I learned early on, even at Grayscale Gorilla, is no matter what you're learning, no matter how new you are, you know something. There's so many more people who don't know that little thing that you know now. So, like, never be shy about sharing what you would think is fairly basic knowledge because there's so many people out there who don't know that. I mean, how many people are in this room versus how many people are out there just tinkering around with a couple tutorials to be like, oh, do I want to do 3D? Is this fun? Is this something that I can get into? So don't be shy about that, but it's a lesson that I need to reteach myself.
You were going to say something.
I was. I'm scared to use the mic.
Just pull the mic out.
Also, on like the that was loud. On like the flip side of you saying about like technology getting better, different ways to do things, all I'll say, and this is coming from a trainer, like the end result is all that matters. If you do something in an old way, or what we call legacy, because we can't say old, in like a legacy way, like cool, like as long as it like the result is all that matters at the end of the day. That's what you're going to show the client. That's what is going to be on TV. No one's going to go, oh, did you use a field or a new like thickness generator? No one cares. Like it's all about the end result. Just to kind of put it in there.
I care.
Okay, listen to him more than me. Trust me.
Yeah, Winbush, I'll throw this over to you as well as I switch out my stand. You know, because I love your tutorials.
Thank you.
Because I always find, you know, you specifically are talking to a group of people that are fresh and new into this. And you lay it out in a way that I feel like a lot of us can understand. And you're really quick to introduce new stuff as well. You're like,
I'm crazy.
That the avalanche stuff. Like I didn't even know it was close to being like shown at all. And here you are doing a tutorial. Like you were the only person who posts a tutorial on the MoGraph Discord like at least once a week.
Yeah, I don't sleep, like I said. But what's the question?
How do you keep? Oh, that was just the point in which I was just complimenting you for. No, I was gonna say like, you know, you do a good job of taking a subject and making it easy to understand.
Even unboxings, yeah.
How do you make sure that when you're creating a tutorial or something like that, you keep it easy for people to understand?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, because I still do client work, and I have like my whole like I've been doing this for a couple of years, yeah. So, like, I got to the point to where I have my camera directly above my monitor. I have my mic on the arm, so I could just pull it down, you know, and just get to going. So, like, as I'm doing client work and I figure something out, I'm like, oh shit, that's pretty dope. Let me record it real quick, and then I put it out. That's why it's like,
it's really good.
I might do a tutorial that might post at like 2 a.m, because I'm up at 2 a.m. I do it real quick, post it, and just let it go and let it ride. But Yeah, I'm just constantly, it goes back to being in an artist bullpen, right? Where everybody's just riffing off each other. Since I started my own company, Winbush Immersive, which is just me pretty much at my home office, but
it's immersively Winbush.
Like, it all started with the VR stuff, which kind of, we won't go there, but basically I'm working by myself at my home studio, and I lost that connectivity with other artists. Like, I don't riff off of other artists in the bullpen because there is no bullpen. And so it's kind of like me put my stuff up online, and then in reciprocation, the artists are sharing their knowledge with me, and we're, problem solving and doing a bunch of stuff there. So that's kind of where that goes. That's why when I figure something out, I get excited and post it, because somebody might say like, oh, that's dumb. Why are you doing it that way? They show me a quicker way, and I'm like, oh, snap. Okay, do another
take down the tutorial if you find a better way to do it?
No, I just link it, say like, better way, and then I'll credit the person right there. You never take down the content. So it's like, but no, like, if somebody truly helps me solve something, then I'll credit them. I'll, put their Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever on there and say like, hey, Logan helped me figure this out. Give them full credit and keep it moving,
I think it comes down to the audience that you're going to, going back to how you don't leave them behind, but also like their expectation as well. If you're just putting up a tutorial on YouTube for free, which is your time, and you're not expecting any money or whatever, you can just do it in your style, and it should be as easy as that, right? But if you're designing a course and this to be a product that people are paying for, then I think you have to put another layer of consideration into who am I targeting this content to, and like it should go through at least a fair amount of Q&A, like quality assurance, like just to and that's I guess that's the process that I'm used to from LinkedIn, and it was formerly lynda.com. It was always like somewhat frustratingly, like you've done the course and you're ready to, you want it out there, but there's people that are going through it and just going, I didn't actually get this, or do you know what? Your project file is actually had a bug in it, or whatever. I couldn't follow along at this point. And it makes you think, oh man, I have to go back and check and fix all these things, so that people stay with you, because I find a lot of people, they'll buy training and never finish it, because they just go, oh, I like, I watched the 2-minute intro or whatever, and I got really excited, but it's tricky to keep people's attention up, and I think that's the people that can nail it on shorts and get their YouTube channel and to a point where hundreds of thousands of subscribers and all that kind of things. It's like,
not me.
No, maybe EJ. I don't know. But it's you just it's that's a whole different thing. Like so the pacing of it is definitely for me like one of these things you got to figure out.
Yeah, my son is getting into it. He's 13, so he's trying to go through these tutorials, and more often than not, he'll get stuck on where someone will do a shortcut that is maybe obvious to us, like what we're doing.
Yep.
And he's just totally lost in the tutorial. So things like that definitely count.
Keep the interface as vanilla as possible. Yeah. Do not customize it or anything, and just call out the shortcuts or whatever, or at least have them captioned and things like that. That's another thing that you'd have to do. Just, you've recorded your training, go through and just, have I called out a keyboard shortcut? Is it clear enough? And it's just kind of seeing it from the eyes of your audience.
Garan, question? You had a question. So I think EJ's tutorials specifically, and this is the thing that really drove me to EJ's tutorials is, and this goes back to what Ellie was talking about, creating a beautiful design. When doing tutorials and stuff like that, EJ's characters that he makes and everything, it's beautifully designed versus some of the other tutorials out there that you'll see that was just, some 12-year-old kid recording and breathing heavily into the microphone while he's, trying to show you how to do a specific thing, and his microphone's terrible. But, a lot of, I think what maybe drove you to that is the fact that the design on it was so pretty. Good job, EJ. I would love to see if there's anyone else in the audience who has any additional questions. I see a few like,
Yes.
yes. What's your YouTube username? Lee Williamson. There you go. Everyone subscribe. you got at least 1,001 now. I'll agree with you there. You know, I think there's a certain level of fame or whatever, and you're like, what's the next step? Because the thing is, we're taking a lot of time out of our own schedule to make tutorials, you know? It's very time consuming, and if we can make a buck, you know, it's really nice. But I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, well,
I'm here for the people.
Yeah.
So, free tutorials. I know I do have paid courses, of course, but also.
But I'll tell you, he does cover a lot of the stuff that's in the paid courses on his YouTube for free.
I was going to say, like, I teamed up with Epic Games. They gave me a grant to actually release a course for free called Unreal Engine 5 in 5 days for that reason, because I release courses. There's people around the world, like the course might be $200. That's a month worth salary for them. So I kind of felt some type of way. It's like, let me put something together that those people can have the same type of quality content that you get from a paid course. And so, of course, I can't answer all their questions because, you know, there's a lot of questions that come with that. But at the same time, I tried to help out as much as possible. So, yeah, I'll always, I'm a big advocate for free education because I feel knowledge is power. So, yeah, definitely follow me on YouTube. I'm for you guys.
For me, and I would love to hear feedback from anybody who might follow any of my stuff, but I'm almost like obsessed with keeping things vanilla, which is ironic that I make plugins. But like in every video, every live stream, I'm fairly confident that I'm like, okay, we're going to use one of my plugins, but first let me show you how to do it without it. I'm like obsessed with like, I don't want to price anybody out of what I'm about to talk about. And I have worked very closely with people in the past who are, you know, it's like, oh, here's going to be a video, and you watch it, you're like, hey, I can't do anything you just explained because it was all dependent on secondary tools. And you know, it was like you said it's a cinema tutorial, but it's not. It's a if you have all of these plugins tutorial.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, okay, yeah, I've got mesh to spline, but I'll immediately be like, well, select the edges you want, say edge to spline. Okay, you've got that. Now with my tool, you can do it faster and parametrically.
Yeah.
So that's always my goal anyway.
We got like 5 minutes left. Yes. From the transition from freelance work to training. Does it work well? That was the question.
It's a lot less. But I've been doing it for long enough. I still get a royalty check, so it pays a bill, which is nice. But the thing is, I guess you just have to keep going to actually maintain anything like that. Otherwise, it can really drop off. So, but fortunately, like, there's new releases all the time. In fact, it's been tricky to keep up with C4D's development because of the rapid releases now. It used to be like, you used to have like a year to get it all sorted, but now it's a lot faster. So you have to kind of go with that and make your training a bit more modular or whatever, and just cover the key things of that thing, or do the videos like you do.
And if anybody's not keeping up, remember Rocket Lasso is always releasing the what's new in Cinema 4D, and those are really hard to make. So but
they come out so quick as well, though.
Yeah, but that's a very stressful week. Learning it all, preparing all this stuff, like learning it without documentation, and then putting the video out. I'm usually like editing and exporting at like 2 a.m, and then in the morning, Maxon's like, okay, we're live, and I'm like, go. And but that's the way I learn it.
Yes, sir.
I would say it's never too late, man.
The question really quick is, you know, if you don't necessarily have a design background, how do you, over the course of your career, create your own voice or your own style or whatever?
I can maybe help a little bit. Yeah, and I also don't come from a design background. I went to uni and studied film production technology, and it was a science group. Oh, I'm so sorry. But basically, I've been doing it for about 10 years as well. And I think one of the major things that you probably will really, really help you if you are looking for a voice, or at least this is what helped me, is that So I'm a huge fan of Pinterest, and there's other things that I'm sure, loads of different websites that you're going to find loads of inspiration from. Now, if you feel like you don't have a voice or that you're looking for one, if you have a look at all the things that you've pinned, all the things that inspire you, you actually might find a thread between all of those things, something that's similar, something that you gravitate towards. And if you're not making stuff that you're inspired by and looking towards, that actually might be the thing that you're looking for. And if you start trying to emulate some of that or combining some of those ideas, I think that you actually could find the voice that you're looking for, the thing that's going to really or make your work sing and make you really happy. So,
is there a need to develop your own style? I don't necessarily think so. You know, it may help you get very unique jobs or something like that, but it's okay to just be generic. It's okay to be vanilla. You know, you don't have to have your own style and your own voice. You know, when you look at an Octane render, you know it's an Octane render. You know, when you see certain people, it's totally fine. You know, when you see a Beeple render, you know it's a Beeple render. You know, just because you go, ugh. But you know, you don't. It's not required to be an artist. You know, art is subjective. It can be whatever you want it to be. You know, but it can be plain and it can be vanilla, like some of the art we saw yesterday at the.
I think it depends also what your career wants to be though. If you want to be a 3D artist that just wants to create cool stuff, then yeah, absolutely. Like you don't have to have your own style. But if, for example, you want to be a filmmaker, right? And when we go back to the question about agents, they're always going to ask you, like, what makes you stand out? There are hundreds of thousands and millions of filmmakers out there. What makes you stand out? And you have to find your voice. And like you said, by the way, it's very hard to find your voice. Like, I didn't know what my voice was until I started I thought I had an idea in my head what my voice was. Like, I was the sci-fi guy. Then I realized, no, I actually quite like comedy. And I started doing a lot of stuff in comedy. And I realized, oh, that's my thing. But you don't know what your voice is until you start creating stuff. Then you start to see, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
And it evolves. You're never that voice. Every project you do, you start evolving your voice and your persona or your art.
And just quickly, when you do go down that route, if you choose to go down that route, be open-minded about what it is you find. It's a bit of a journey. So just be really open to seeing where it takes you and let go of any sort of preconceived notions of what you think you should be. Because that's like the thing that's going to shut the whole process down.
Absolutely. That's a great note to end on. I want to thank all of my panelists who came up and gave their opinions. Big shout out to them. I did want to put this out there for all of the, London, UK, England artists. If you're interested, Maxon is always looking for presenters for all of these different events. Hit up Karan in the back. Talk to him because they are always looking for people to present. So I'll end on that. Let's see. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Matt, and I'm Winbush, and I'm Winbush. What up, what up? Yeah. And this was DAT. Thank you all. Thank you so much.